Welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. Our phone lines are open for any and all of your landscaping and gardening questions, so give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? You can shoot those questions into our email at kfizstudio@gmail.com.
I was just going to mention here again, too, that we are on YouTube, and you find us by searching for Landscape Smart 24, Season 24.
Season 24.
Season 24 is in 2024. So, yeah, Landscape Smart Season 24. So if you missed the beginning or you can't listen to the whole show, you can tune back in. So
excellent. Yeah. Tune in right. And also you should be able to find that link at our website at KFIZ.com. So if you want to, like he said, or if you want to turn back in, or if there was something you wanted to refresh yourself, there was something that, by all means, you can go right back. And on top of that, we're going to turn right to the phone lines. Do you have a question for Ron and Patty?
I do, and thank you for the show as always.
Mm-hmm.
Candy crisp apples, familiarity with those at all?
There's a Honey Crisp.
I have Honey Crisp, but my husband came home with a Candy Crisp.
Yeah, it's a newer variety, and that's one of those, I think, out of the University of Minnesota program where they've kind of taken some of the best attributes of Honeycrisp and mixed it, hybridized it. I'm not real familiar with it other than I've heard of it.
Okay.
and that's kind of what happens at first with some of these trees. You can't always get your hands on them real. So if you're lucky enough to find one, and you aren't going to find it at the grocery store either.
Well, he actually came home with it from Menards.
Yeah, well, I mean,
produce aisle.
I just meant the apples.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they sell everything at the grocery store, too. But anyway,
Oh.
No, I had actually Googled it last night. I was thinking maybe you even had it in an orchard. But I Googled it, and they said it was a discovered seed that they had never had before that grew up into this apple tree. And it was in, I'm not going to remember the area, but it was in the state of New York. And not Minnesota, but Michigan, where this guy is writing from. He's got a web page. He said there's an abundance there.
Well, then I'm getting it mixed up with a different one then also. So I'll stand corrected.
Okay, well, because it has a bottom like a delicious apple. It'll be partially green, partially yellow when you pick it, and then when it sits, it turns yellow, just like a yellow delicious. They said it is sweeter than a Honey Crisp, does not have they say bite or whatever to it. I love my Honey Crisp, so you can't say too many bad things about that to me, but it doesn't have a lot of acid in it, so it can't be used. They don't suggest using it like in a salad because it'll turn brown real fast, But it was like in the 1980s, actually, and I'm surprised that imagine if they have one and then it takes a long time to even develop anything. But I know on Honey Crisp, we talked about that for a long time. You couldn't get your hands on it. You could very rarely find it in a store, and then it'd be a limited amount. But, yes, I actually called a year ago. It'd be a little over a year ago with our Honey Crisp, and it did not have one blossom on it. And you said it has to rest, and I just figured, well, a lighter crop. Well, last year I had enough for like 4 trees.
Yeah, mine too. It was good for a Honey Crisp last year. It was beautiful. Little bitty tree with all those apples on it. And they're so big.
Yes, and ours does not get the amount of sun it's supposed to get. It's almost neglected, and it just does so well. But now I was just curious if you had any input on this other one. Well, now I gave you a little information.
Right, that's what I was going to say. That's how we all learn.
Yeah, and it really is.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how with this season this year, everything's kind of blossoming a week or 10 days earlier.
Right.
than a typical season because of that. Things warmed up a little bit early, so it'll be interesting to find out if there's enough bee activity.
I didn't see much
out there to get the pollinating process going this year. So we might have a lighter crop.
Yeah, I've been looking for those bees too and haven't seen anything.
I was looking last night on my ginormous ancient apple tree, and there was just a few. It wasn't all a buzz like it usually
not
gets.
the way you'd like to see it anyways.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe the fact that the nights still get down, and the coolness and that their body is just saying, yep, no, not yet.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, if this turns out to be a decent apple, I will walk into the studio and I'll have you all taste it.
Sure.
Okay.
No,
sounds great.
Sounds good.
I'm absolutely looking forward to that.
No, thanks again for the show. Have a good weekend.
Thank you for the call, and you too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it's interesting how, some of these, they'll take, different apple varieties. Well, for that matter, pears, plums,
right, yeah,
cherries, everything.
Any of them. Yep.
And then some are just a chance seedling.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work out very well. There's millions and millions of seedlings, and maybe in 1 out of a million turns out to be a good tree.
Right.
But for the most part, it's a specialized breeding programs, and a lot of it is there's certain, like the University of Minnesota, I like using them. I prefer them because it's a Midwestern.
Yeah.
There's different, and something out of New York State or Washington State, they can be, their climate there is just a little bit different.
It is.
They probably have more lake effect and all that stuff.
So it seems and that's why Honeycrisp, it came out of the University of Minnesota program, and some of the other ones that are Zestar and some of these other ones that they used with Honeycrisp to develop the next generation of apples seem to be the best ones in Wisconsin, just because they have pretty much the same climate in Minneapolis as what we do here in central Wisconsin.
Yep.
So, and in Michigan is well known for fruits and apples and things like that too. And there they got a little more lake effect, so they can get by with some of these Zone 5B and Zone 6A
and
fruit trees, peaches and things like that.
Apricots.
Well, since we're on the subject, then, is there anything people should be doing with their apple trees or fruit trees in general that they may have? Is there anything particular at this time of the year, or even particular for this year, since things are, progressing a little earlier than normal?
Well, it is. You do have to be. If you're going to do any spraying, this is the time to get your first application down here right now while they're blossoming, and out at Rademann's, and even though they're insecticides, they don't affect the bees. They're affecting insects that are developing. You're not spraying these sprays. And we have one out at Rademann's. It's an organic spray. It's not and basically what you're doing is you're spraying the blossoms to prevent the codling moth and some of the funguses from developing inside the apple. It isn't a direct contact kill. So if you'd spray it on an anthill, you're not going to kill the ants. If you spray it on houseflies, you're not going to kill houseflies.
Not going to kill the wasp on your wasp nest.
You're not going to kill wasps or bees with it. It's not that kind of insecticide.
Yep.
So that's not what you're trying to do here. So you don't have to worry about that. The bees will still be just fine. That's always kind of one of the questions we get is, well, how can if I spray it when it's pollinating and I kill all the bees, well, what good does that do?
That's the opposite of what I want.
Right. But, these, and I can't, so you have to be careful there too. You can't just, like if you spray insecticide 8 on
that kills everything.
That would kill.
Yeah.
If you'd spray that on bees, it
Right.
wouldn't do them any good. That's for sure. I don't know if you'd knock them dead or not. That's hard to say. But you want to use a specialized fruit tree spray when you are spraying fruit trees, not just a general insecticide. So, because there's differences there too, and this one that we have out at Rademann's that's organic, it's it's more oil based. It's not
Like neem oil?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I look at that. There's a lot of things, I study up on all that stuff when I'm ordering products in the winter, and then
it's
by,
all
and then
put
by
together
now,
in one clump in your head.
right, it's off in the corner there somewhere. So I
Yeah.
do the research on it at that time of year, and then I move on to figuring something else out.
Yep.
The next,
Then you learn about Candy Crisp apples, and it just
Right.
pushes it out.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, there's at this time of year there's a lot to process. So some
I can
things I
imagine,
have
yeah.
to move into a different compartment to survive the season.
All right, tell you what, we'll turn to the phone lines. You have a question for Ron and Patty?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they were talking about the compost planting for like asparagus and the garlic.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like in the spring of the year, like for tomatoes and peppers, I got some compost and worm castings.
Oh, yeah. That's perfect.
Okay, so compost in the spring too for certain plants, huh?
Sure. I mean, the only reason I don't recommend manure-based compost is
Right.
you shouldn't
Yeah.
use that, but
It's too
any
hot.
other.
I don't.
Yeah, it's too hot
Yeah.
at this time of year.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's not-
Okay.
yeah,
you'd burn
Yeah,
your
okay.
plants.
Yeah.
It's not.
well,
Yeah, I got
mine
chickens,
doesn't
so,
do that.
yeah.
Bunny doesn't do that.
Bunnies don't, huh?
No, bunny
I
bunny
heard
manure
that,
doesn't
too.
burn.
It's like black gold, they call it.
Yeah,
know?
you want?
Yeah,
I have
it's great
extra.
stuff.
You can come and get some. I have extra. I actually do have people come and get it. Really.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. I know a guy up here. I'm up on the north side of the lake, so.
Are you,
Okay.
gonna have, you should
got a
bring
guy.
it to the plant sale.
Well,
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, does Master
There we go.
Gardeners have their sale on every weekend?
no,
Like the
no,
ones
just next Saturday, May 11th. It's gonna.
at Fond du Lac?
Yep, from 9
you-
to 9 to 3 at the fairgrounds.
Right. But up here, you wouldn't know about the Master Gardeners, what day
Well,
theirs would be.
You're in
I could
Calumet
find
County.
Yeah, just on the edge. Yep.
Well, just come to ours.
I just might do that.
Because
Sounds
I know they do have a plant sale, but they might.
Yeah.
It could be this weekend. Who
Yeah,
knows?
it could be. It
Who
could be,
knows,
but
yeah.
it could be the same weekend as ours, and you
So
need to come to
yours is
ours.
Saturday?
This coming Saturday from 9 to
Okay.
3, we have
Okay.
lots of stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
But any Master
you.
Gardener program is,
Yes.
is
I
great.
know.
So you.
Yeah, you can't
So
go
if you
wrong.
find one in Calumet, go ahead.
You
and
can go to
that one.
both. I'll let you.
Yeah, we
Thanks a
support
lot.
all the Master Gardener programs.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
We started our program
Mm-hmm.
for a plant sale for just because of Calumet County did it, so that's why we started ours.
Oh, so now we know the rest of the story.
Yes.
So yeah, Rademann's open today until noon. You can still get a delivery. Give Joe a call at 920-922-7612 or stop on out before noon today.
And welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. Any questions at all in terms of gardening or landscaping questions, give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? Shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com.
So isn't now the ideal time to plant trees and shrubs?
Well, the ideal time to plant them would have been last year because
Well-
they would have been a year older
Okay,
by
okay.
now. Or 2 years ago would even been better yet. But
No, but for
No.
this year.
yeah, well, it's always the best time is always sooner than later.
Yeah.
And so, if you're in the fall, don't wait till spring. If you're in the spring, don't wait till fall. Plant them and get them started and get them going.
Don't do summer, period, really.
Yeah, well, and you can still, you can't do bare root, and there's certain things that you don't do well in the summer. But for the most part, you can plant in the summer, but you can't dig trees out in the summer. You can't disturb them. But if they're in a pot or if they've been balled up previously, and to backtrack just a little bit on that, typically if you're looking at the 10-day forecast and it's calling for 7 of 10 days to be in the mid 90s, I probably wouldn't pick that week to plant. I'd maybe wait another week, because it's better to be planting in July in the 80s than in June in the 90s. So if we're doing things like that, we're always kind of just we're always looking about 10 days ahead.
Yeah.
It doesn't really so much matter that particular day. It matters because you're planting it and then you're trying to,
right. You don't want it out there baking for.
Right.
It's hard on it for those. So that would be the only thing there is.
And be prepared. You got to really be up on the water when you plant when it's warm out.
I assumed that if you are gonna do any tree or shrub planting right now, as soon as you plant them, I would imagine water.
Yeah,
water.
Yeah, and that's and you got to be a little careful there too. And that's kind of one of the problems if you pick that 90-degree week, is then you're tempted to water it too much.
Yeah.
And so if you're like a new planting, for the most part, you're watering it 2 or 3 times that first week. And then after that, it should dry out to a certain extent, and then you rescue it back. So, you seldom water more than once a week after it's been planted. Now, there's different rules there too. Obviously, if you're planting perennials, you might be watering those every other day, 3 or 4 or 5 days a week. Whereas if you're planting a 15-foot oak tree or maple tree or something like those, you've got a deeper root system, and then you want to water it usually twice a month is often enough.
Yeah.
Once it's kind of initially planted, then so when we are transplanting trees with our big tree spades and things like that, it's always, I have to tell people, don't treat this like your perennials. Water it 2 or 3 times this first week and then back off. Every 10 days, and it's so much different too. If you're
you got to teach them how to water too. That it should be a slow trickle for 45 minutes to an hour. When they do water.
Last year, we had a lot of hot, dry weather, in already in June.
Yeah,
and people weren't watering long enough.
Yeah.
They were watering, and only the top half of the root ball was getting moisture, and it was raining a little bit, and they thought we were getting enough,
and that wasn't.
And then they weren't watering the whole root system. So pretty soon, half of the tree is dying because half of the roots have died.
Yep.
So you water different plants differently and in different soils. And, it's sometimes you water once a week. Sometimes you water, twice a month, 3 times a month, 4 times a month. It varies depending on soil conditions and the varieties of trees, too.
And how much moisture from Mother Nature.
Yeah.
If it rains just a little bit, it doesn't count. It has to be like 1/2 inch to 1 inch for it to count.
And isn't something that sometimes fools people is to say you get like a really big thunderstorm for 45 minutes, has this big torrential downpour, and people think, oh, that covered it. In reality, it's not. What you really want is those long 4, 5, 6 hour steady rains that's just steadily holding rain for a solid amount of time to actually soak the ground,
and
right?
It's more even the back-to-back. If you get those 45-minute thunderstorms, but you get one in the morning and one in the afternoon and another one the next morning.
That's enough.
It's doing some good.
That works. But a heavy one and then nothing is
Right.
like half of it runs off.
It works for your lawn, keeps your lawn green, but doesn't really, and your perennials. It
Yeah.
helps them and your garden for the most part, but it doesn't really do larger trees any good. Yeah.
Right. So let me ask you this, because we're talking about watering, so it's on topic. I just planted, so I'm trying to shift things around underneath my maple tree, and so we just planted in the corner of the plot where it sits carabels. How often should I be watering those? Those are brand new.
Yeah, I would water like at least 2-3 times a week until they're
Okay.
established,
Okay.
because we really have pretty dry soil right now. It's not the we didn't get a ton of spring moisture yet.
Yeah, and if you're planting underneath a maple tree,
Yeah.
a lot of times it rains. The water doesn't even get down.
The
down
maple
there.
steals it all.
That's
Because
kind of what yeah.
Yeah.
And maples are very shallow rooted. It's actually one of the more difficult trees to plant perennials around.
I'm learning this.
because as you dig down, you're hitting all the maple roots.
If you did hostas, they wouldn't be quite as touchy as the coral bells.
Well, I read that corbels were a good one to do, so
They are.
that's why we did it.
They are.
And we may try to put hostas in there. So we
In
have
between, yeah.
yeah, that's what we've thought
That'd
about
be
as well.
cute.
Yeah,
Coral bells are more interesting.
Yes, they are.
yeah.
Well, there's
I
some
agree. That's why we
beautiful-
wanted.
I have some beautiful hostas. They're just unbelievable. The foliage is so pretty.
No, we probably would consider doing something like it's more of it's kind of like it's work in some progress
yeah.
where we're trying to figure out because
Do
I
it.
know because from previous owners I know there's a lot of old mulch and even lava rock and I want to actually kind of rake a lot of that out. At least that would recommend, and then I actually want to mulch it again myself and probably just because the other thing too is like I don't like the carabels kind of have like a maroon or a red, and that lava rock is also so it all kind of
Yeah.
just blends, right? So I want to like maybe put a dark colored mulch in there so then the plants can
Just put a natural.
or that
Yeah, like
Yeah, like something like that. I actually like
cypress.
I was going to say cedar.
Oh, cedar. Cedar
Because
would.
cedar is
yeah.
kind of a real light tan, almost
Yeah.
golden in
That'd be
color.
perfect.
yeah.
And it's again, cedar, it's not one of the dyed mulches
Yeah.
and things like that, which we have both at Rademann's. We have the dyed ones, and we also have the natural hardwood. And
I
and
prefer
cedar.
natural with all my landscaping.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's much prettier. I don't know.
Well, it's more
Yeah, and-
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cedar, there you've got that lighter color together with the purple,
Yeah.
Palace purple coral bells is what
Yeah.
Yeah.
what Matt's talking about
Yep.
here. And, there you get nice contrast. Like you said, if
Yes.
you have that red lava rock,
I don't like lava rock anyways, but yes, you don't get that contrast, so it all just kind of
you can't
blends.
see it, right? It doesn't.
Exactly.
You can go out and find some really golden leafed hostas to set it off to.
Oh, that would be good. I like that idea. I'm writing that down. See, I like that. Yeah. This is why I ask you.
I
guys.
just found one. It's just so brilliant gold and green, a little green striping in it. It's beautiful.
Very nice. Because no, we actually had where we put the carabels. We actually had chicks and hens, and those seemed to
Yeah,
be struggling.
no, yeah.
So I actually moved those, and we put those. We have just like little ornamental pots. We put those in the pots instead.
There
the
you
chicks and
go.
hens. I think that might be a little bit better for those, and then the carabels
Yeah.
around the maple.
Yep.
So
There you go.
all right. Well, good. And now I know about 2 to 3 times. And I assumed like that slow trickle, right? Just
Well, their roots are shallow too. It doesn't have to be a long, slow trickle. It just amount to a good deep soaking. But
a good deep soak. Okay.
yeah, doesn't have to be
Well, and
like
perennials
for a tree.
are different than
Yeah.
than trees. Again, now the root systems on perennials are only down 3-4 inches
Right.
maybe. So there you have to just make sure that 3 or 4 inches is staying moist, or it should still dry out in between. You can't have constant
Right.
wet.
Yep.
But so that's why, like Patty said, you're watering maybe 3 days a week or something. Let it go a day or two and then water.
Okay.
And let it go a day or two and then water it again. It's good to have them whether it's perennials or trees or anything, you want it to dry out a little bit
Yep.
in between.
Makes the roots reach.
Yeah, the roots reach out and they expand. If you water every day, the plants don't need to.
It just thinks it's always going to have water right there.
Yeah,
And then
it doesn't.
Yeah,
doesn't
and then you get a storm
Yeah.
and a tree blows over and it's because you're watering it too often.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a reason to reach out for more moisture.
I've already, if you buy those little plugs of annuals and their root system is all in that little plug, if you don't rough that up and take off the bottom clump of roots, solid root, I've already come back and dug them out at the end of the year, and they were just all still in that little plug because the roots never
never
reached
bothered,
out.
yep.
They couldn't get out a lot of them because it was just too much root system in that little plug pot.
Right.
So
And the other thing there too, if you put like some of that starter fertilizer down and spread that out into the soil, then the roots will reach out for that. If you have poor soil and the roots aren't gonna reach out there looking for it either, because they a lot of times when you buy a potted tree or shrub or perennials or any, there's a lot of good nutrients in that to begin with.
That potted soil, yeah.
So it doesn't have any reason to venture out.
Yep.
Right.
So you got to have good soil for it to go out into, and then good, and make sure that there's fertilizer there. And that's why, we have the fertilizer packets out at Rademann's too. And when you're planting there, it just works so much better to, that way those plants are reaching out for the nutrients. So.
yeah, we're going to have a ton of perennials at the plant sale. So
Oh, yeah?
yeah,
Yellow
Just
hosta?
I
more
don't
reason
know.
to go,
I
right?
couldn't find any of those. I only found one, so that one's mine.
All right, I tell you what, we'll take our final break. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company.
So yeah, Rademann's open till noon today, just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, just east of 41 by a quarter mile on County Trunk B.
And welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. If you have any questions, give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450, or you can shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. And speaking of that, we actually have an email from Catherine. She wants to know, would it be good to throw a 10-10-10 fertilizer on the soil in a flower bed to enrich the soil?
Definitely, yes. They don't like a ton of nitrogen, so that lower first number is important, but
And at
it's
this time of
balanced.
year, it's kind of better. You don't want to use something with too high of a first number,
Right.
too much nitrogen. So 10-10-10 at this time of year would be fine.
It'd be perfect. Or 20-20-20.
Yeah, well, then you're getting a little hot, so you have
Yeah,
to be
well,
a little
okay.
careful.
10-20-20.
Good luck finding that one. But you're a good balanced fertilizer like that, and it's obviously if it's 10-10-10, that's only 30%
Yeah.
fertilizer, so it's not a real strong mix. So you got to be a little careful at this time of year if you're using fertilizers, because you can do more harm than good.
Yeah.
So that's why I generally like, the ones that you water soluble that you mix with water when you're fertilizing this time of year. But a 10-10-10, again, with only 10% nitrogen, you aren't going to get yourself in too much trouble there.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that she's putting this fertilizer in now
Yeah.
and then planting right after
Right.
that. So
Yeah, even-
mixing it in with the soil.
Well, established, it would be workable too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Anything established.
And it's always good to add a little compost and or mulch, and you're good for the season, pretty much.
No. I'm going to piggyback off of Catherine's question then. So she's talking about in a flower bed. What about like for my caravels and stuff like that?
Yeah.
What would you recommend in terms of the fertilizer then?
Nothing for the first two to 3 weeks.
Nothing at all.
There's probably there's fertilizer. Those plants were fertilized when you bought them.
Oh, okay.
So you want to be a little careful
Gotcha.
there because they still have some
Yeah.
fertilizer in the pot.
Okay. So just water right
Yeah,
now.
for now. Yep.
Okay.
Because the root system has to start establishing itself before it'll actually make use of the fertilizer.
Oh, okay.
So,
So it's almost like there's no reason to do
No,
it.
right.
Gotcha.
And then in a few weeks, then again, you could use like some of these that you mix with water.
Right.
yeah.
And would you recommend like what, a 20-20-20 for that, or?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Okay.
And we have a handful of different formulations out at Rademann's there, but something around like that would be ideal.
Which numbers would be best for like a root stimulation, higher for the root stimulation?
Well, your phosphorus, your
Yeah.
second number
Right.
is always, kind of the key number as far as getting a plant to develop a good root system.
Okay.
That's what I would do for the first water, is find a higher middle number fertilizer.
Okay. I'm
Right.
writing this all down.
Okay. Because
And that's where the lawn starter fertilizer that we have, and that's actually a granular, and you can mix that in your garden, or like this collar with the 10-10-10. That would be in our, I don't know what our lawn starter fertilizer is. I'll find it here somewhere. 9, 15, 13, I think, or
that's
something
pretty
like
close to 10-10.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not far off.
That's what
yeah.
I said. You actually just have 5% more.
Right. The root stimulation
of-
part of it.
Right.
Actually, it's slightly less nitrogen too.
Yeah,
Right.
that'd be
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked that one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you have 10-10-10 in the garage, don't throw it away.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so similar that there's just minute differences there. But if you're going to buy it, well, then you might as well buy the perfect one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then when the roots get established, the higher middle number will help them, give more
Reach out.
strength to the
Yep.
plant.
Yep. I'll remember that.
Well, and that's why we like using the NutriPack packets. Those are 16, 16, 16, but it's a slower release. So that's why, they work well, because you have the nitrogen there, but you also have that higher phosphorus and the potash if need be. So
I want to remind everyone, you were thinking it.
Come to the plant sale next Saturday, 9 to 3 p.m. at the Fond du Lac County Cow Palace.
Excellent. And you will be there, right?
I will be there.
Answering everyone's questions.
Yes.
Mostly my questions.
Yeah, okay.
Because I definitely want to try to get there. So hopefully I'll be there. Ron, thank you so much for joining us.
yeah, Rademann's again open till noon today. You can still get a delivery, 920-922-7612, or stop on out just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, east of Highway 41 on County Trunk B.
Perfect. And get all those fertilizers out there that we were just discussing. Don't go anywhere. The Jerry and Karen Schneider Poker Show is coming up right here on 1450 News Talk KFIZ and 100.7.